In the 050s PCU, emboldened by the triumphant colonization of Axios, Keeper's Dance Fleet Yards, formerly Santana Star Works, were hoping to maintain their momentum and secure a complete monopoly over the gate-building market. Drawing up plans to proceed into the northeastern reaches of Tantalus, KDFY successfully added the obscure system then known as Hesemelis to the gate network. Finding little there but rocks and dust, KDFY almost aborted their expansion plans, but ultimately decided to gamble on another gate-building expedition, even further into the northeast, this time targeted at a tiny late-stage protostar, which observations had suggested might play host to a significant quantity of drift. On the 122nd of Solstice 053 PCU, the huge gate-building expedition launched through a new drift gate in Hesemelis and disappeared from contact, never to be heard from by the rest of humanity for almost 160 years. This was the first day of what would come to be known as the Great Merician Exile. Due to KDFY's rush to continue their expansion into the northeast, only brief observations had been taken of the star to which the new expedition would be sent. Late-stage protostars are by definition variable stars, with a proclivity for dangerous solar activity, but KDFY's astronomers had deemed this one to be in a quiescent period, though concerns had been raised that their observation time had been far too short to make such a determination accurately. This concern was proven correct when the arriving expedition fleet found itself the victim of a colossal solar flare, which scattered the flotilla across the system and doomed over half of its ships, including 3/4 of the necessary components needed to construct their return gate. With the expedition's entire senior staff and all of its high-ranking corporate representatives wiped out in the flare, command fell, after some amount of confusion, to the fleet's senior-most engineer, a man named Adam Merrick. Rising to the occasion with incredible determination, Merrick organized and consolidated the fleet's survivors, formulating a plan to ensure their survival long-term. It became quickly apparent that despite lacking any habitable planets, the system was indeed overflowing with drift, as well as many other rare metals and useful materials, which would prove vital to the expedition's survival. Under Merrick's direction, they constructed countless stations and holdfasts from their own ships and harvested materials, a process that took decades. By the time of Merrick's death in 085 PCU, they had already begun to conjoin many of these stations together into a colossal spaceborne city, which would come to be known as Merician, in honor of their late savior. After 157 years in exile, in the summer year of 210 PCU, the nation now known as the Merician Freehold, using nothing but what they could scrape together from local resources, finally replaced the lost components of their driftgate and reconnected with the rest of Tantalus. The first Centran dignitaries to visit the Merician system after the end of the exile were in awe of what they found. The city of Merician itself was now over 15 kilometers in diameter, and the rest of the system was packed with orbital rigs and surface bases on the few atmosphere-free planets, all crewed and operated by so-called riggers, an entire cultural class of the now fully developed and nuanced Merician society. Offers were made to find space on Centrum or Rialtis for the rescued Mericians to live on, but by now the Mericians hardly felt themselves in need of rescue at all. No one in Merician society still lived who had ever set foot on a planet, and in their exile they had become unparalleled masters of spaceborne life and resource economics. In fact, it would be the Mericians themselves who swiftly took on the role of rescuers, as the reconstruction of the Hesemelis side of the new Merician gate lane had caused a serious economic crisis in the Centrum Assembly due to its rapid consumption of drift, a situation which the Mericians found themselves well positioned to resolve. As part of their bailing out of the Assembly's economic disaster through the sale of a huge quantity of drift, the increasingly wealthy Freehold prospered quickly and dramatically, soon purchasing the entire Hesemelis system from the Assembly and later renaming it Merrick's Keep. In an ironic reversal of the Assembly's offer of living space, it quickly became apparent that immigration into Merician by Assembly citizens was far more popular than the opposite, and Merician found its population rapidly increasing as many came seeking profitable work as riggers, prospectors and mercenaries in the bountiful system. So overwhelming was this influx that by 217 PCU, the High Captains and Guildmasters of the Freehold Directorate had voted to tightly control outside access to Merician itself, constructing the asteroid city of Merrick's Keep around the driftgate leading to Merician, and turning it into a sort of bazaar for trade and other interactions with the rest of the cluster, held at arm's reach from the home system. In the decade since the end of the Great Merician Exile, the Merician Freehold has become a titanic economic and industrial superpower that is now inexorably tied to the stability of the cluster's economy. Through savvy economic maneuvering and sheer self-reliant tenacity, the Mericians have made themselves indispensable to the rest of Tantalus, and continue to profit from it immensely. Mighty Merician treasure ships continue to carry a huge portion of the cluster's freight through carefully navigated trade routes, and Merician PMCs and freelancers protect merchants from pirate raiders all across Tantalus. Almost every ship built in Tantalus now uses at least some Merician-built components, and during the Frontier War, it was generally considered that the Frontier Union militia were only able to operate as a serious threat to the Assembly for so long on account of Merician-bought ships, ammunition, and contractors. 251 years after they disappeared through a driftgate and were written off for dead, the descendants of Adam Merrick and his herd of desperate survivors now hold the economy of the Tantalus cluster together, and with the dawn of the Great Famine, many middle and upper-class Mericians continue to enjoy a higher standard of living in their far-flung and self-made nation than their own planet-born ancestors. Thank you for watching. You can get the Sojourn through various distributors, all of which are accessible through www.thesojournaudiodrama.com. You can also get the series through Patreon, where you'll be able to access various bonus features, including our visual dictionary, Guinevere cross-sections, and anthology shorts. Remember to join us on Discord and get regular updates on all upcoming Sojourn releases. All the related links can be found below this video. Fair winds.